DinoLand U.S.A. finds its home within Walt Disney World's most intricately themed park. With lands like Asia, Africa, and Pandora, the standards for theming here are high. Thus, when most people find themselves walking through DinoLand U.S.A., they are confused to say the least. Why on earth is such a sparse and kitschy land housed amongst the rest of the park's staggering beauty? Well, the truth is, DinoLand U.S.A. isn't quite as simple as it may at first seem. The land actually has a rather complex backstory. But is this enough to make up for the disruptive look of the land itself? So, the story is that this was once a small highway town where an amateur fossil hunter found some dinosaur bones in 1947 in the fictional Diggs County. After making this discovery, they contacted their scientist friends, who all put their money together to purchase the site and the surrounding farmland. The site then became home to a bunch of scientists who wanted to conduct some dinosaur research here. With this, the Dino Institute was founded and opened as a fossil discovery park. The Dino Institute is a scientific research centre for paleontologists. As part of their research, the scientists actually figured out how to warp vehicles through time and began to offer time tours to the public. Therefore, tourism to the area boomed, and the surrounding businesses very quickly adapted. The Institute turned an old fishing lodge on the site into Restaurantosaurus, a spot to feed all the hungry new tourists. This restaurant is mostly run by the college kids who are interning at the Dino Institute. In fact, if you look up inside parts of the restaurant, you'll actually see their dormitories. Following this, two locals named Chester and Hester wanted to find a way to make a quick buck off of these tourists and decided to convert their gas station into a fossil souvenir shop. This was so successful that they also decided to put up a little amusement park in the car park called Chester and Hester's Dinorama, featuring their very own version of dinosaur named Primeval Whirl. They also added Triceratops Spin and the Midway Games. This tourist trap is supposed to seriously annoy the scientists, who wish to be taken seriously, which is difficult when the perception of Dinorama is inadvertently linked to their reputation. The Dino Institute has tried many times to buy their land, but the family simply refuses. And so goes the ongoing feud of who has the final say in DinoLand U.S.A. Thanks to this being the backstory, DinoLand U.S.A. is intentionally simple and pretty tacky. The visuals of the land make this aspect of the theming very clear, but this complex backstory is not so obvious. While there are many clues to this backstory littered all throughout the land, such as the car parking spaces, cracked asphalt, and the fuel pumps, it must be said that DinoLand U.S.A. does fall somewhat short of communicating this full story to guests, which, let's face it, would be a pretty tough thing to do. Now, for those in the know, the theming can be fun. A gift shop themed to a gift shop, and a now extinct roller coaster themed to a roller coaster are worthy of at least a little chuckle. But don't we want more from Disney? Story is a core element of Disney theming, but it cannot just exist in extra promotional sources. It must also be effectively displayed and prominent within the landscape. Disney's intricate incorporation of detailed backstories into numerous theme park attractions is one of many things that sets them apart from everyone else. Oftentimes, part of this will go missed by the average guest, and little things are only really available to be learned through tiny little Easter eggs that only the most dedicated will ever notice. Now, this kind of thing is absolutely fine, so long as the bulk of the story is present for even the most casual guest. DinoLand U.S.A.'s story may be one of the most complex, and the land itself does simply not rise up to the challenge of portraying this. It's like a land full of Easter eggs only to be appreciated by the most trained eye. For example, one of our favourite details in the land is an advertisement for Epcot, located at the exit of Chester and Hester's gift shop. This is a really fun play on the backstory, but like the story itself, it gets missed by most guests. Unfortunately, most people interpret DinoLand U.S.A.'s theming as authentically tacky, not some clever signal of a deeper backstory. Many people, therefore, walk away from the land thinking it is simply tacky, which it is, but it's tacky for story purposes. But does this really matter? Is the land not always destined to simply become what it is mocking, a cheap funfair? Whether the area was a cheap last-minute solution to a dwindling budget, or planned right from the start, it looks cheap and it therefore feels cheap. Even if everyone had to sit down and watch a video explaining the land before they enter, this simple fact wouldn't actually change. The backstory is great, but it's not a substitute for quality. DinoLand U.S.A. even has the money-grabbing game stands that aren't found anywhere else at Walt Disney World. Now, props again for taking the theme and running with it, but there is a reason why such stalls aren't at home within a Disney park. Similar stands are also found on Paradise Pier, now Pixar Pier, whose original theme also suffered from complaints due to realism. In both instances, the Imagineers may have met the requirements for the story, but unfortunately, these requirements don't match the expectations of a Disney park. Theme parks ask us to suspend disbelief and play along with the stories we are being told. Thanks to this, they are able to transport us to places beyond our wildest dreams, something we have come to expect to be very well done by the Disney parks. But a cheap roadside amusement park, well, this isn't beyond most of our imaginations. When guests are paying the incredibly high price to be at Walt Disney World, is it really surprising that most people don't want to play pretend at a lower quality product? It becomes pretty hard to see the cheap look of DinoLand U.S.A. as theming, and instead, it looks to most to be simply that, cheap. It's not hard to see why the average guest is so unwilling to play into the concept of DinoLand U.S.A, because it just simply isn't an appealing one. Clearly, DinoLand U.S.A is stylistically different from the rest of the park. But is it also thematically different? The entirety of Animal Kingdom revolves around conservation. The goal of the park is to teach us just how important our natural world is. Even the fictional Pandora holds up this message. So, does DinoLand U.S.A? In a way, it does try to. There is a reason why all the scientific research is taking place here. It's to better understand our world by learning more about its past. And there are even very real animals present in the land to help teach us about this. But Dinosaur's goal of bringing home a dinosaur from the past does feel a little bit Jurassic Parky. I think for most people, whether true or not, pop culture has taught us that dinosaurs shouldn't be something we bring into the modern age. Then there's Chester and Hester, who seem more interested in cheap thrills than conservation. From this angle, I just don't think DinoLand U.S.A. works. But to be fair to the land, there are ways in which I think it kinda does. For a theme park, Animal Kingdom is a pretty serious one. Stories of poaching and endangered species find their homes in many of the park's attractions. Therefore, it can be said that DinoLand U.S.A. provides some much-needed comic relief. Still undeniably disruptive, perhaps from this perspective, its differences become more understandable. Plus, it isn't actually a complete departure from the land themes of the park. Many lands in Animal Kingdom utilize regional places as their theme, and DinoLand U.S.A. is distinctly American. This land is a heavily romanticized representation of lower-income areas of America, in much the same way that Harambe and Anandapa are heavily romanticized representations of Third World Africa and Asia. The small amusement park and roadside attractions are, in a way, an endangered species in themselves. But without any true messages of conservation, I just don't think this land works in quite the same way. In some ways, Disney are actually trying to achieve something pretty complex here. They're being somewhat self-referential, attempting to reference the amusement park industry within a more detailed theme park. But ultimately, Chester and Hester's Dino-Rama is a harsh contrast from the rest of the park, and it really doesn't live up to the Disney expectation. It may be true that there is rich story behind all of this, but I just don't think that that's enough to make up for the land itself. The theme in DinoLand USA is essentially the antithesis of what Disney wants to be, and within this land, it's hard to tell where cheap attractions end and intentionally tacky theming begins. DinoLand USA therefore feels extremely out of place within Animal Kingdom, as it removes you from the beautiful environments of the rest of the park into what I'd call chaos. With all this being said, it comes as no surprise that DinoLand USA is currently being considered for replacement. At the 2022 D23 Expo, it was suggested that we would see attractions based on Moana and Zootopia being considered for this space. But by the Destination D23 event in September of 2023, plans had changed. The proposal had shifted to a Central and South America themed land featuring Encanto and Indiana Jones. We are still yet to learn exactly what this will entail. And while there are many issues with the land, we would be quite sad to see Dinosaur go and be replaced with a clone of the Indiana Jones attraction over at Disneyland in Anaheim. Let us know what you think in the comments. Do you appreciate DinoLand USA, or do you just appreciate its cool backstory? Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, check out my links in the description and some of my other videos.